Welcome back to Varsity College Football, your new home for college football and only college football. If you don't recognize these glasses, you're not following me on TikTok at Varsity College Football, same handle here. And if you're from TikTok, seeing this for the first time, welcome in, because today we are discussing changes coming to college football. Some can be big, whether you agree, disagree. I'm not a big fan of change. I'm a traditionalist when it comes to college football things, so that's just how it is. But we got stuff from a possible 2-minute warning, more playoff expansion talks, the 5-7 model that could be coming. We got plenty of stuff to talk about today. Helmet communications, video things on the sideline. Yes, stuff that's been in football and even high school football for some coming to college football. A lot of stuff happening, and there's always just whirlwinds of things going on in college football. But let's go ahead and get right into it. So let's go ahead and talk about the 2-minute warning. Actually, no. First, let's not do that. I want to talk about the helmet comms. So the NCAA Rules Committee, they're going to meet at the end of February, and they're going to come out of that meeting, apparently, this is from The Athletic, with proposals to allow permissive use of both pieces of tech, meaning whoever wants to use them could use them like helmet communications, video on the sideline. Based on the insights gathered by the committee so far, the experimental use of the helmet and tablet technology during the bowl season, not college football playoff related, was a success. And I actually this is a pretty good idea. I mean, the NFL's had this for basically my entire life. And even high school football, some of them are able to watch videos on the sidelines and things like that. And college, so in the bowl games, there was some helmet comps for teams. And I actually looked at the 4 teams mentioned in the article. All 4 teams that participated that I saw did participate in the 6 games. So there were 2 other teams, I don't know, but the 4 teams I did know for sure used it. Mentioned in the article were Texas Tech, they won their bowl game. Northern Illinois, they won their bowl game. West Virginia, they won their bowl game. Maryland, I went to that, the Music City Bowl, where they spanked us. They did it, and they won their bowl game. We chose not to use it. But it seems like it actually went very well, and their meeting also would come with regulations and stuff on this, because also the whole Connor Stallions thing, where people are freaking out about signs. This makes it easier for direct communication rather than signs, and you have to figure out rules. Are the videos you're going to be able to look at going to be just static images of the defense? Or are you going to have how many tablets can be on the sideline at once? Is there a cutoff time for your communication in the helmet? Because in the NFL, when it hits 15 seconds on the play clock, communication cuts off. So, you can't just talk to your players all game. But in the bowl games, they could communicate up until the snap. I mean, so it won't be like that. There will obviously be rules and regulations. But I think this is a good change. I see no reason why this wasn't already in the sport years ago, so it's not really a thing. But as we know, college football was pretty hesitant to change until recently, when now it's just like, all right, just throw the damn papers, throw them up in the air. Everything's going AWOL. So that's pretty much it on the helmet comms. Just wanted to keep y'all updated on that. Now, let's talk about this wad of stuff. The College Football Rules Committee to discuss a 2-minute warning. Yes, for Chris Vanini, who works for The Athletic, wrote about this. College football officials are expected to discuss the idea of adding a 2-minute warning to games in a rules committee meeting at the end of this month. The possibility resurfaced a year after the committee adjusted the clock rules to bring the game closer to the NFL, obviously, where you run the clock after first downs outside of the last 2 minutes. Stupid. 2-minute warning idea, which wasn't there, now formally referred to as a stoppage or break. So they're saying it could help also add drama to the game like it does in the NFL. Help for clock rule change and commercial break purposes, saying that they possibly will not use the breaks where they have one less commercial break, where it'll stop consecutive commercials where there's like a kickoff and then a commercial and then possession, or a touchdown commercial, extra point commercial, kickoff commercial. They're like, it will eliminate that, because that will make them take away one of their other ads and do it at the 2-minute warning, knowing it's their final ad. No, it will not. They're just going to be like, oh yeah, we'll do that. And they'll be like, idiots. We got another free ad. We got another ad. Let's go. Tell that to CBS. They're the kings of the touchdown commercial, extra point commercial, kickoff commercial, and then a commercial after the first down for some shit. I mean, this is such a joke. And I love reading into the, and then they talked about how the game time last year was shortened by like 4 minutes. The overall game time, they talk about the exact game time. It's like, yeah, but how many more commercials were actually added? I would love for if you talked about that. How many more commercial opportunities were added? I would love to see that. So let's go to the comments on The Athletic on this. And this is where it gets fun. Ryan says it would just mean more commercials. Yes, that's the first one. Absolutely no way a 2-minute warning reduces commercials or back-to-backs. This is just another ploy for more ads and more money at the expense of fan enjoyment. Bingo. Chad says more commercials. That's it. Yep. Seems like everyone's getting it. The 2-minute warning is the biggest load of nonsense ever. There's no reason to give teams a free timeout. Be smarter with the 3 you get. Bing. That's a whole other conversation for itself, but I think coaches in college have gotten really bad at figuring out time management. And I don't want to hear you're not a coach. Like, these guys know better than you. Yeah, we're talking X's and O's there. Potential, like, time management kind of stuff. There's a lot of stuff these past few years where it's like, are these coaches getting dumber at being able to manage time in these close game situations, or using timeouts when they shouldn't? That's a whole other conversation. I don't want to get into that now. But yeah, the 2-minute warning was basically invented in the NFL in the 40s. I mean, it's almost 100 years old. It's getting 20 years away from being like 100 almost, or like 21 or 22. But it was invented because the refs initially kept the time in the NFL. So, like, that's when everyone would know. They would be like, 2-minute warning, be like, oh shit, there's only 2 minutes left. Like when you're a kid at the water fountain drinking and you hear like Sally or Ben behind you going, 1 Mississippi, 2, and you're like, oh shit, gotta hurry up, like, that's what that was. And now the TV keeps out of it, the scoreboard, everything else, everyone's got the time, everyone knows the time. There's no reason for the 2-minute warning until the NFL just perfected bringing in media deals and all that stuff. And now the 2-minute warning is when it's close to the end of the game, so everyone's watching the game, and that's the perfect time for commercials. That's why it still exists. So it's literally, I agree with you, Jordan J. It's 2-minute warning is the biggest joke ever, and it rewards teams who should lose games. Whatever. No thanks. Between 6 times, this from Ian, no thanks. Between 6 timeouts per half, there are plenty of stoppages. We all know this is about more revenue. The idea of the 2-minute warning itself is so silly. And what other sport does the clock just stop because it's close to the end of the game? College basketball, don't even want to talk about that. Thank God we're talking about the advertisers. Yeah, Maximilian. True. We need to care more about these advertisers. That's exactly what everyone else who runs the sport is freaking doing. This is obviously a network-driven cash grab masquerading as a reform that obviously is not necessary. Fans all get this, but I'm certain we will be told in the coming days, weeks, and months how necessary it is that college football have a 2-minute warning to be more like the NFL. Thank you, Matt C. Smart name. We think alike. Yeah, so basically it's just, please, no college games are hard to watch with all these days. Seems like everyone's agreeing because everyone knows, but they'll continue to feed these ideas to these people who consume the sport at a really lower level than most of us. And they'll be like, they'll see one little headline and it'll grain in their head. This is going to be so good for this. This pisses me off. This really pisses. The last year, the clock running, the continuing the clock run after the first downs outside the last 2 minutes really pissed me off. But, it just keeps going. So let's go to more news. The college football playoff vote. They are expected to vote on College Football Playoff Board of Managers are expected to vote February 20th on a model that would include the 5 highest ranked conference champions and the next highest ranked teams in the 12-team playoff this fall. This is from Heather Dinich on ESPN. Obviously, we all know who she is. And a format change that could finally get the unanimous backing it needs if the Pac-12 agrees to it. So, the Pac-12 has been going through the whole fiasco. It's Washington State and just Oregon State. So they're kind of like, hold on, before we start doing all this, let us kind of get on our feet. And now all the other conferences are kind of like, you're kind of settled now. Look, we kind of know you're kind of backed into a corner. You can't just throw this off forever. And it looks like the Pac-12 probably will agree to it because currently it's only for 2 years, by the way. This kind of little situation we got going is only for 2 years. People keep like forgetting that, which we'll get into later with this other thing that really pissed me off. But Washington State and Oregon State benefit from the 5-7 instead of the 6-6 because, I just said that. That's weird. But they don't win the conference. They can't win a conference title, so they can't get a bye. So the 5-7 gives more at large, so it helps them. But basically, that's for that. I wanted to keep y'all updated. So that will be February 20th. But also what comes with this is there will also be more conversations than just that, because there always is. When these people meet, they don't just discuss one thing. These are a lot of high-powered profile individuals. And Ross Dellinger, senior college football reporter who kills it with Yahoo Sports, actually talked about on February 13th in an article about the future of the NCAA tournament in college football and what it looks like. Did I hate some of the things I read in this? Like, so much. So There wasn't just necessarily, there was a quote that I read by the American Athletic Commissioner who is going to be gone soon. I believe he retires after this year. But this was from Petiti, the new Big Ten commissioner. This was in the article from Ross Dellinger. While serious discussion about expanding the 12-team playoff format has not arisen inside college football playoff meetings, many believe it eventually will. Petiti has privately discussed with commissioners expansion models that include 14 and 16 teams with multiple automatic qualifiers to major conferences. And then Oresco, the American Athletic Commissioner I was talking about, who's set to retire this summer, actually, says that a move to 16-team playoff could very well be in the future, and that such a tournament would probably be under a 5+11. He says the truth is, if you went to 16, you're not going to fundamentally change the playoff. Excuse me? Anytime you change the playoff, you are fundamentally changing the playoff. That's the stupidest thing I've read, but also it's coming from the American Conference, who also automatic bids thing is ridiculous. But here's the thing. We were talking about how Petiti's trying to expand it to 14 and 16. Oresco then talks about the distribution of money within the college football playoff. Oresco says the real question on the revenue is how much is going to be concentrated in a handful of conferences. It's 80-20 right now to the so-called Power Five, but obviously there are only going to be 4 of them. And then the question is how much. The SEC and Big Ten are probably going to want more. It's understandable that's going to get worked out. So yes, the SEC are probably going to, and Big Ten are probably going to get more money like they want to and should. But then you go back to what Petiti was wanting to say, where he has privately discussed with other commissioners expansion models that include 14 and 16 teams with multiple automatic qualifiers to major conferences. So if the SEC and Big Ten increase their revenue and we increase spots in the playoff, it's about that conference getting more money. Obviously, I feel like you probably should have picked up on this, but I'm sure he's talking to those other conferences and basically saying, look, man, we expand it. There's more spots. If you do this, you help us, you're probably going to get in. You're probably going to get in. This stuff is just ridiculous. I mean, we're getting to a point, even your Mark, the Big 12 commissioner who's worked in big business, he views the next move and next phase of college athletics evolution into a more robust business. In the business world, it is referred to as the value equation. So basically, we're probably going to, like, expansion's not done. We already, like, when you get the shaving cream as a kid and put it all on the freaking table and they go, put it back in, you're like, oh, shit, your 5-year-old mind just explodes. You're like, oh. In 10 years from now, when there's going to be like 24 teams in the playoff and the SEC and Big Ten both get 12 automatic qualifiers or some shit, like, you're going to be like, how did this happen? And be like, it happened now, like a long time ago. This stuff is ridiculous. And this was, I saw this, I hate to say this, but it was on Reddit from this dude, archaic_1, talking about this. He said, do rich people take some sort of class where they learn how to lie to the poors to placate them? I feel like I was just bullshitted by some experts, basically saying, like, telling me, so placate is like, let's say you forgot to take the trash out and you're like, oh shit, forgot to take the trash out. So you go do the dishes to make up for mom. You're basically like, they're angry about something, but you're doing something else to take their anger away from that one thing. So basically it's like, hey, look, we're killing what's special about your sport over here to mass commercialize it to the people who don't really care. But here's possible entry into the college football playoff that we're going to trick you into thinking a thing until we get like a 9-3 Iowa in every year because they get an automatic qualifier from the Big Ten. When there's plenty, look, if your team's outside like the top 6, don't even begin to argue with me about playoff stuff, which is why I hated when expansion happened the first time. I get it. I liked the BCS 1 and 2. To me, like, I could be wrong, but to me, 99% of the time, not every single year, 99% of the time, only 2 teams are good enough to compete for a championship. And that's usually pretty true. That's usually what ends up happening. And you can say 4. 4 is fine. I'm fine with what we have right now, which is now gone. We're going to 12. We already started. Like I said, you put it on thing. It's going to keep going. They're going to keep going because it's just going to mean more money. It's just going to mean more money. It's not, the biggest lie was, we want to include people. We want y'all to have a chance. If you're having to sit there and say, hey, we deserve a chance, You don't even have a team good enough to go to a championship. Like, the one thing that bugs me being an Auburn fan is there's a lot of fans who are like, I like the 12-team playoff. Why don't you like it? It means more football. Yes, it means more football, but it takes away from games early in the season. But they're like, now we have a better chance to make the playoff. I'm like, yeah, but you do realize if Auburn makes the playoff, look, I'm pretty realistic about things, and I also get optimistic sometimes. But you realize if we make the playoff, it's usually tough. The regular season's hard enough for Auburn in general. We're going to have to most likely beat Georgia or Bama again. And then who the hell else knows we're going to play, like Ohio State in the first round or some shit. Like, it got harder. The chance to get in is easier. The chance to win one is harder now because you're going to have to win more games against more high-profile teams. Instead of the years where we have won them, where we've had a really good team, but we only had to win one game. We only had to win one singular game. Or an SEC championship, I guess. But like, this like that really bugged me. Just the possible of 14-16 from Petiti, and it's all about money. I mean, it's literally just they're taking what was special. And I know, like, I'm gonna have people tell me, "Oh, you're overreacting to this," which what I was told when they initially announced the 4-team playoff. They were like, they're not gonna go like 4. This is perfect. This is good for the sport. I didn't like that when they announced the 4-team playoff. I remember when it happened. And I was like, this is not good. Like, I don't like this. I don't like this. We're going. Then what do you think happened? It went to 12. It's going to keep going. And they're even trying to do it. I don't even talk college basketball, but they're trying to do it to the damn NCAA tournament with 68 teams because I think more teams need to be in. There's freaking 68 of them. And you think, oh, we need the best teams in. You should have already made the freaking tournament. They're going to do that same shit to this sport. And I'm tired of seeing they're taking what was special and adding these filler ingredients to make them money. These are people who would step over you to pick up a penny. All they care about is that next cent. These people care more about a penny than your entire life, and they're ruining this freaking sport, and I am so tired of it, and I hate biting my tongue. And I know people will disagree. They want expansion. More games, more football games are so good. I'm not saying more football is bad, but at some point, things start to devalue the more you add. Just because more money is being made doesn't mean the sport is getting better. It can actually get worse, but it still makes a shitload of money because of these TV deals. So I was a fan of back in the days where a game in the middle of October literally felt like a playoff game, whatever you want to call it, because you had to win that football game or your chances are over. That's what made college football so special, was you got this one chance, this one opportunity, and you could capitalize on it or you failed. There's just these monumentous heights of the moment, which are now going to go away. Like, it's going to go away with a 12-team playoff. I mean, shit, there's going to be teams that are probably 8-4 that somehow squeak in that are going to be competing for a national title. And a lot of you people who love this shit are going to be real mad when you're like, oh, a farther out ranked team won it. Y'all are going to be real pissed when like an 8-4 Bama is the first team outside of like the first 8 to win a national title. That's when y'all are going to be real pissed. There's a safety net now for all the big boys that normally when they get left out is when other people win, you know, obviously, and everyone likes those years, makes those upsets so big. Now you'll have like a 9-3 Bama sitting back there creeping, and you're like, oh shit, like that team has enough talent to still win a national championship, but they slipped up in the regular season. Like, or Ohio State, and I'm just rambling now, but there's a lot of changes. You can agree or disagree with me. If you disagree with me, flame my ass in the comments. I don't care. I'm just tired of this sport changing so quickly. Now, a lot of things, the NIL stuff, I'm completely fine with that. The transfer portal shit, I'm fine with that. But let's stop acting like this is all about anything they tell you is player safety, anything about the players, blah, 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 blah. If it's coming from high up, none of the shit they're saying, don't listen to it. It's all garbage coming out of their mouths, and it's all for money. They're milking the greatness out of the sport. They're taking what's special about this sport and just trying to make it like a mainstream sport and like anything else, just so the average Joe can try to consume it. People messing with the sport. I'm done. I'm out.